Should you invest in vintage or modern Pokemon cards? That's a question that has been going through so many people's minds in the past couple of years. And it kind of makes sense because vintage and modern have been performing so different in the market lately, so sometimes it can be pretty difficult to choose something to invest in. Well, in this video we're going to cover a couple of vintage cards and sealed products with modern cards and modern sealed products. But before we dive into that, if you're new to the channel, my name is Noah. On this channel we make Pokemon card investing and collecting content. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Now let's start with the most vintage and old card you can think of, which is going to be the base set Charizard. If we're going to take a look at how this card has been performing, you can see that in the past 365 days, this card has increased with 27% because 1 year ago it was worth around $215 and currently is going for $272, even though a little bit earlier in October it went for around $300. So in about a year time, this card has increased with 27%. And if we're going to take a look at the booster packs this card comes from, which is of course base set, you can see that it kind of has performing in the same way because in the past year it has increased with 21.67%. 1 year ago this pack went for around $400, currently is going for around $492. So what you can see with vintage cards and boxes is that it increases gradually over time, but not as fast as modern, which is exactly what we're going to take a look at now. Because one booster box that hasn't been going absolutely crazy like Team Up or Cosmic Eclipse is going to be a Sun and Moon base set booster box. In the past year, this box has increased with 184%, which is a lot more than this vintage booster pack. Because in the beginning of this year, this box went around $300 and currently is going for $870 a box, which is a significantly higher number than the vintage cards. Now if we're going to take a look at one of the chase cards from a modern set, which is going to be this Arceus and Dialga and Palkia GX from Cosmic Eclipse, you can kind of see the same because this card has increased with 232% in the past year. In the beginning it went for around $60, currently is going for $205. Now these Sun and Moon sets are of course not the most recent sets because they have been released quite a while ago, but if we're going to take a look at a modern set that has been released quite recently, which has been performing really well, we can take a look at this 151 ETB. In the past year, 151 has increased with 188% as well. In the beginning of the year, ETBs went from 120, currently they're going for 350, even though like a bit ago they were going for over $400 a piece. I do have to mention though that we're currently in a really hype market and especially modern sets have been increasing a lot in value, so this yearly increase is definitely not normal. However, if you compare vintage with modern though, you can see that modern is performing way better at the moment than vintage cards. But I also have to say that vintage cards often have like a factor of nostalgia on it. I started collecting cards in the X and Y era, so I completely love to buy booster packs, singles, or any other thing that's just from X and Y. And that's not because X and Y had better sets or better products, it's just because I grew up with it. And I bet if you grew up in the Wizard of the Coast era, that you think that these kind of cards and products are way more fun to collect and to invest in, because they have a factor of nostalgia for you. Now here's where it gets interesting, because if you can combine Pokemon collecting with Pokemon card investing, I think you find an insane sweet spot. Because if you can make money doing something that you genuinely love to do, it's just so much better than if you're only just buying to make money. And that's exactly why I created the Pika Academy. In this community, you'll learn to invest in Pokemon cards and make profit while having fun. We don't promote scalping or anything unethical, but we focus on doing what you love to do while making profit. And you can easily do this by knowing the right products to buy. So if you genuinely love to collect Pokemon cards and you want to make some extra profit with it, check the Pika Academy with the link in the description, and then I'll see you in the community. Now I just showed you how modern and vintage cards have performed over the past year. But to be honest, 1 year of data doesn't conclude that modern Pokemon cards are a better investment than vintage cards. So if you're going to take a look at the data from price charting, we can go back 5 years in time. Now this is where it really gets interesting, because 5 years ago this base set Charizard went for $225 and today it's going for $282. And with some calculations you can see that this is only a 21% increase over 5 years. I agree that if you bought 1 year later this card was worth way less, so if you would have bought in December 2021 for example, you would have had a better deal, but overall this difference is not that big. The same thing is if we're going to take a look at a legendary collection booster pack. 5 years ago these packs went for around $855 and currently they're going for $1,990, which is a pretty big difference, but that's going to be a 2 times return of investment in 5 years. Now if you're going to take a look at a more modern set like Team Up, you can see a way bigger difference. 5 years ago Team Up booster boxes went for around $100 and currently they're going for $8,700, which is like an 87 times return of investment. I do have to admit that Team Up booster booster boxes are one of the most extreme examples of the past years. And finally, we're going to take a look at 151 again, because 5 years ago these ETBs went for around $50 and currently they're going for $324. So it's pretty crazy to see that overall vintage products have like a 2 times return of investments in the past 5 years, while modern sets have like a 5 to 6 to maybe even 87 times return of investment for example, Team Up. So it looks like modern Pokemon cards are a better investment at the moment than vintage cards, but I'm really curious what you guys think about this topic. Do you think modern or vintage Pokemon cards are a better investment at the moment? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever wondered why Pokemon cards are so expensive? Because we all know that in the past couple of months, these cards have become so incredibly expensive that it's just mind-blowing. If you want to know the answer to that, make sure to watch this video next where I explain why Pokemon cards are so expensive in 2025. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in this video.